Welcome to the Boys Tournament Tip-Off Show presented by Current Electric. I am Mike McGivern alongside my co-host. He's back for another day. He is Chuck Freimund, KFIZ Sports Director and the host of Football Friday Nights on Fox Sports 920. So Chuck, let's break down our 9 a.m. game. In Division 5, as the number 1 ranked Reedsville Panthers take on the number 4 ranked team, Sheboygan Lutheran Crusaders. And let's start with Reedsville. 26-3 overall. They went 10-2 in the Big East North Conference, and they beat Elkhart Lake and Tigerton, was a really good team, in the sectionals to get to this game. They are coached by Ron Prochnow, and I can tell you, talking to him and listening to him talk about this team, his son does a lot for this team. And he's a 5'10 senior guard, averaging 21 and 11 assists. And he said, look, we thought we had a chance to be really good. Senior-laden team. The leaders on this team are all seniors, and it's a team that we thought in the beginning of the year had a chance to get to this game, so we're not too surprised.
Ron Prochnow, I believe, coaches every team in Reedsville. You go there for a grade school tournament. He's coaching the 6th graders. You come back a couple of years later. He's coaching the 8th graders. He's coaching the 7th graders. He's coaching the varsity team. He's got his handprints on Reedsville basketball, and his son is a really good player too. These 9 a.m. games are always interesting. You always wonder, all right, who left their game at home? Who left their game at 9 o'clock, right? You're not used to playing at 9 o'clock.
You're not. And it's interesting because there are a number of coaches that will have their athletic directors and principals, depending on if they're in this or not, let their kids out of class at 9 a.m. to get a run in, to get a practice in, so that their bodies and their minds can get used to playing at that time.
Wow. I didn't know that. I did not know that, man.
Sure.
They didn't do it when I played.
No, I can tell you.
There was no practice.
Maybe not at Martin Luther, but other schools, they are doing that for sure. Ron's really proud of his son, and he had talked about, look, the maturity level that his son has had on the court. He said, we're playing in gyms that he can't hear me, and he knows what I want. He's almost like another coach on the floor, and he gets us and stuff. There are times that I'll call a play out and he'll shake me off, and he'll run what he thinks is going to work, and it normally does. His basketball IQ is really high. He's been coaching these seniors, like you said, since they are in 3rd grade.
Well, have you ever seen a coach's son who doesn't have a high basketball IQ? It just comes with the territory, right?
It does.
It does.
It certainly does.
Like you and Matthew.
100%. Matthew knows more about basketball. He probably forgot about it more than I know. They are playing a very good Sheboygan Lutheran team, a team that's used to being in this position, coached by Nick Verhagen, been there a long time, 23-6. Overall, they were 9-3, second place in the Big East South Conference. What I didn't know until the press conference is they had lost 2 starters, got 2 of the best players that they were going to have on this year's team. One transferred and now moved and lives out of state. And then another kid who was back, Zach Leonard, tore his ACL in the offseason, and he's back. He's kind of on a pitch count right now as far as the time that he can play, but he had a really big 3 in the Barneville game to get there. And he said, look, he's the kid that heart and soul of this team. He just can't be on the floor the whole time.
And, we talked about crazy bounces yesterday in the sectionals. And here's how Sheboygan Lutheran won their sectional semifinals. They're playing Oakfield. They're down in the final seconds. They're working for the final shot. Kid takes a wing 3-pointer, bounces off the front of the rim, straight up, falls through to send the game to overtime.
Zach Leonard. He was the kid. One of the kids, the kid who tore his ACL, is the young man who hit that. And I can tell you that Coach Verhagen said, I am so happy for this young man.
It was an unbelievable shot. They go to overtime, and if you're the opponent there, Oakfield, you're sunk. How do you bounce back after a kid hits a shot like that?
Right.
And then Sheboygan Lutheran won the sectional semifinal by 10, and then they rolled into finals in Watertown on Sunday.
Oakfield had a really good year.
They did.
They had a really good year. Hey, let's talk a little bit about the second game. The second Division 5 game today. Number 2 ranked, the Buccaneers from Prentice High School take on the number 3 ranked Wildcats from Southwestern High School. Talking and listening to the head coach from Southwestern, Clinton Nemens, he said, look, 9-5 in their conference in the Southwest Wisconsin Activities League. They took 3rd place. And he said, look, this conference with some of these schools, he said, we get overlooked. Mineral Point, Cuba said, some of these teams in that conference, we get overlooked. but we've gotten to this game now. We've been up to state a number of times, and they're still kind of overlooking us. And when you take third place in the conference, not many people think you can get to state. But, man, this team that I have is awfully good. They beat Crawford and Assumption to get to this game.
Yeah, just a really talented team. Just a really talented team, and a team that's got a lot of winning tradition to them. And this might be their time. I believe they were down in the sectional in their game, too.
They were. They were down, I think, 13.
Against Rapids Assumption, right?
Correct.
Yes, they were down in their game. But they haven't been to state since 1988.
Correct. And he said, look, we have a chance a lot to win the conference. We are now, at least in this conference, thought about. But still, when it comes to the statewide stuff, we want to start to make a name for us at that point. And then Adam Blueberg, who is the coach at Prentice, the Mighty Buccaneers, they're 25-2 overall, 14-2 in the Merriwood Conference. They took first place, beat Rib Lake and a really good Turtle Lake to get to this game.
Yeah, Turtle Lake went to state last year, and that was a huge. They had a couple of free throws down the stretch to win that game. And Prentice, 1999. They have not been there this century. 1999 is the last time they went to state.
Evan Lord, who is a senior, averaging 18 a game, is the leading scorer in school history.
Yeah.
Adam played with his dad, and he said, look, his dad played a lot like he did. He didn't shoot the ball as well, didn't shoot the ball as much. He said, but Evan Lord is the kind of kid that everything goes through. He's a 6'3" senior, kid that we need to pay attention.
Yeah, watch that kid. Sometimes we don't hear a lot about the kids in the upper part in some of these smaller conferences, but taking ball out there. And that Lord kid can play. Saw him on tape. He's a good player.
He's a really good player.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to get to a break. Other side of the break, we'll break down the first Division II matchup coming up later here on My 24. This is the Boys Tournament Tip-Off Show presented by Current Electric, only on My 24. Welcome back to the Boys Tournament Tip-Off Show presented by Current Electric. I am Mike McGivern alongside my co-host. He's Chuck Freimund, KFIZ Sports Director and the host of Football Friday Nights on Fox Sports 920. Tip-off for the first state semifinal in Division 5 is right around the corner. Stay with us here on My 24 for great high school basketball action. Hey, Chuck, let's break down this year's Division 2 semifinal. First tip-off is at 1:30 as the Slinger Owls take on McFarland, followed by West Salem taking on the Blue Dukes from Whitefish Bay. Let's start with Slinger. The number 1 ranked team, 24-4 overall. They won the North Shore Conference with a 10-2 record. And talking and listening to Alex Levine, who's the head basketball coach at Slinger, he really talks about his defense in this press conference.
We've kind of made it a priority. As we went through the season, you start to establish an identity and figure out what are things that need to be done at a high level in order to, maximize your team. Offense kind of comes and goes to some extent, right? But defense is kind of what we pride ourselves on, disrupting timing, making things challenging for the other team, and then just being consistent in that regard, not like good one night, not so good the next. Like every night we have a plan, and that's our focus. I think, we play fast too. Our speed can be overwhelming to our opponents at times, and our ability to rotate, around the floor.
Chuck, they had a tough regional sectional to get there. They did. They had to beat Nicolay in the regional, and then Port Washington and Notre Dame in the sectionals. And talking with Alex a couple of times throughout that week and a half, he said, look, if we can get to state, this is going to help us. But boy, this is tough regional and sectional.
Yeah, North Shore Conference got 2 teams from at state from the North Shore, I believe. And look at Slinger, what they've done in football and now in basketball coming up here. They got some really good players and getting after it defensively. I was watching some of the Green Bay Notre Dame tape. I really thought in that game in the sectional final that was a microcosm of how Slinger plays.
It is. And start with the Cohn brothers, you do. But if you're going to talk defense, Colton Mans is a senior on that team. And he has taken that kind of, as Alex would say, he's a dog on defense. He'll play the best player. He'll pick up full.
Yeah.
He's the guy that sets the tone for us defensively. Scores about 6 a game, but he's on the floor a lot, and he's the kid that will defend the best player in the other team.
And because of that, I look at Slinger as being one of those teams that you throw them in any division, 1 through 5, and they can win any one of these divisions. I think they're that good.
Yeah, I agree with that. And when he talked about turning points in the year, and he said, look, our losses were to Wisconsin Lutheran, to Nicolay, to Port Washington, and to Homestead, like to really good teams. And he said, I think we learned a little bit. He said, I don't know if our players did. Yeah, they were a little upset with the losses, but our coaching staff, we learned a little bit about our team and what we should do, what we shouldn't do with some of those losses. And let's go to the Conan brothers if we can. A junior and a sophomore, both Division I basketball players. And he said, look, when they play together, sometimes they're yelling at each other, sometimes they're hugging each other, sometimes they're saying, get me the ball. And he said they are true brothers, but at the end of the day, they play for what's on the front of their jerseys, but they get after each other a little bit.
By the time these guys are all done, these Coen brothers, it's going to feel like they've been there for 15 years. And that's what it is.
Can you imagine being in that conference? Graduate.
Yes.
Go, you know what? Head out.
You know how it is. There's some kids that you think, God, that kid is still on the team.
Right.
You know,
Right. Kelly Tripucka. He played at
Notre
Notre Dame
Dame.
for about
Yes.
15 years, for sure.
and they're going to say the same thing about the Coens.
Yeah, yes, they are, for sure. Hey, let's talk a little bit about McFarland. The Spartans from McFarland come into this game 23-5 overall record, tied for first in the Badger Small Conference with a record of 11-3. McFarland is coached by Jeff Meinhold. 52 years since the Spartans have gotten to Madison.
Yeah, 73, 74, they won back-to-back state championships. And you look at them, that was a big head turner beating New Berlin West. I had New Berlin West win in that section.
You did.
And McFarland won that game. And I think they're a good, I mean, they are a good team. They're all good at the sectionals. But yeah, I just thought that was an impressive win. And McFarland has some hockey history, some football, but here they come in basketball now.
It's been 50, like you said,
Yeah.
52 years. Let's listen to their head coach talk about this year's team.
We had talked about it, obviously that was one of our goals that we always put up on the board this year, especially. We had a really good summer, pretty solid summer in the off season for our kids. And, we were at the UW team camp and we got a chance to play on the Kohl Center floor. And, I just kind of subtly just said, hey, fellas, we might be back here in March. And sure enough, here we are. So that was pretty cool. I reminded of that, them of that in the locker room last night. And yeah, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, it's something we always talked about, but it was just one game at a time. Our goal was to win the conference title and then just, keep inching our way closer to where we are now.
He talked about that Badger camp, and he made a point a couple of times in an interview to talk about the offseason with them. They have one senior. And that's it. They've got 8 juniors that have been playing together since first grade, and including the coach's son, Cam. And I can tell you that he said, look, in the offseason of that Badger camp, when we competed with some of the best teams in the state, I think our kids came away from that saying, look, we're not 1 year away. We might be there right now. And he's really proud of the way this team is playing.
Sounds like they've grown up here in the second part of the season and taken that extra level. And why not them? Why not? They got the 4th seed, but they could take care of business here too. Obviously, a tough draw with Slinger in that first game.
Yeah, 100%. A tough draw with Slinger. But again, 8 juniors playing together since first grade. We had that conversation on yesterday's show that some of these teams, especially in the public schools, when you get a chance to play together since first, second, third grade, it does give you an advantage. I've always had the conversation with people private to public. And they're like, oh, you guys recruit. I go, I never recruited because that's illegal. I recommended and highly suggested.
Yep.
That's not illegal. But I've got to introduce freshmen when they walk in the building. Your kids have been playing together since first grade, which I think gives them a great advantage. And I think they should take advantage of that if their youth program is run correctly.
Oh, sure. And the parents have been around each other for years, and everybody knows everybody, and they're building up to this time. And the coach is it's his time right now. I'm happy for him. I've heard a lot about him.
Yeah, I have too. Hey, let me one last comment about Slinger before we get to a break. Their staff, Derek Berger is on the staff at Slinger. He's got 2 sons in the program. Former Dominican coach, right? Won back-to-back 4 state championships, and He is on the bench, and he handles a lot of their defensive schemes, and he's doing a great job. And people they see Derek, they don't know who he is. I certainly do. I coached him in 6th and 7th grade in St. Bernadette, and he's got a great mind for this game, had a lot of success as a coach and as a player at Concordia, but he's helping that staff quite a bit.
Well, that's fantastic. Isn't it amazing, though? The kids you've coached or kids you saw grow up, and also they'll come up to at a game, and they're on the JV coach or varsity assistant. Like, man, remember me? I had you on my 6th grade team.
Yeah, and you never worked hard is what I would say to them. You need to work hard if you're going to be a coach. Let's get you a break. Other side, we're going to break down the second Division II matchup. This is the Boys Tournament Tip-Off Show presented by Current Electric, only on My 24. Welcome back to the Boys Tournament Tip-Off Show presented by Current Electric. I'm Mike McGivern, alongside my co-host. He is the sports director at KFIZ and Football Friday nights on Fox Sports 9:20 a.m. He is Chuck Freimund. So, Chuck, tip-off for the first state semifinal in Division 5 is right around the corner. I want people to stay with us here on My 24 throughout the day and this evening for great high school boys basketball action later this afternoon. The second game in Division II should be a real good one as the Panthers from West Salem take on the Blue Dukes from Whitefish Bay. Chuck, let's start with West Salem, 24-4 overall, 12-0 to win the Cooley Conference. They are coached by Shane Schmeling. This year's team, he had talked a lot in the press conference about Eli Cochran. He was 5'9" as a junior. He's now 6'5". The last 10 games started to really grow into his body a little bit. He's averaged over 15 a game the last 10, and he talks a little bit about Eli.
Elliot Corcoran's been just phenomenal over the last. I actually just looked it up before I got on the call. He's averaging 10 points a game for the year, but he's averaging 15 a game over the last 7 games, and has had some big moments. He hit some huge shots on yesterday afternoon. Played really well against Onalaska Central. Actually, both games played really well against Onalaska Central. And, he's a kid that just has kind of finally grown. He was 5'9" about a year and a half ago, and he's 6'5" now. So it took him a while to kind of get his feet underneath him, and he's gotten stronger, and he's starting to figure it out. And he's a kid that I think is just going to continue to get better and better. But yeah, he's really made a difference for us down the stretch, kind of giving us a fourth legitimate scorer every night. And he's got some length, so we can put him on other teams to give Drew or Spencer a little rest, or if they get in a little foul trouble, he can guard a pretty key guy because of his length. So he's been a big part.
4 out of 5 years that they've been to state. And he had talked a little bit about, getting moved up to Division II because of the success we've had. We haven't talked about it. We're not going to talk about it. Let's just go play. We're going to just continue to play basketball. Don't really care how many kids in the school we're playing against have. They can only play 5. And it was interesting. He said, look, in the past, West Salem teams have tried to outscore you. We talked about defense and spent a ton of time on that side of the floor. We're going to try to outscore everybody. This year's different. We spent a ton of time doing shell drills, trying to keep teams, 60 or below. And he said, we've gotten pretty good on the defensive end. It took our team a little bit while to get there, but we've certainly done that now.
Yeah, that's a tough transition, right? When you have that offensive mindset, and all of a sudden coach is asking you to play D. He's got his coach's voice. Coaches sometimes this time of the year, they're losing their voice at this time of the year. He's one of them.
He is definitely one of them, and he's really proud of this team. He said, look, we've got a number of players that can score, right? A couple of juniors and a sophomore, 3 juniors and a sophomore. This team, we might be talking about them again on this show next year, but he said, look, if we defensively can start to slow teams down, offensively, I'm not worried about the way we play. Defensively, we've just got to be able to shut some teams down.
Yeah. And you know what? Defensively, it looks like they're getting after it. I saw a couple of videos of their game, playing some big crowds they play in front of out there, too.
In Onalaska, Lacrosse Central, Nami, the teams they beat in the sectionals, regionals, really good basketball programs.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a really tough sectional and regional for them to come out of. Let's go to Whitefish Bay. The Blue Dukes, the third-ranked Whitefish Bay Blue Dukes, 24-4 overall, took second place in a very difficult North Shore Conference with a 9-3 record. They're coached by Ryan Feet. Ryan talks a little bit about this year's team.
Colin Julian didn't get near his average in the sectional final the other day. It didn't matter to him. Shane Feld picked him up. He had 20. Other guys picked up the slack, and they just play for each other. I mean, it's just, to keep it simple, it's a bunch of friends that love to play basketball together, and that's what it's about for them. They've been playing since third grade together, junior Dukes all the way up. They got 3 of them that play in the same AU team together, and they just play for each other. They lift each other up, and that's what it's about. Like I said, to keep it simple, a bunch of friends that love to play basketball together.
Chuck, I saw it firsthand. Colin Julian, the junior that's averaging, I think, 18 a game. He was one of our, on my radio show, my Pick and Save Student Athlete of the Week, and we met at the Metro Market in Shorewood. And I do this each week, and I'll normally get maybe a coach or a player and then the parents of the young student athlete. The entire Whitefish Bay Blue Duke team showed up. The entire team, a couple of JV players, the entire coaching staff, Colin's mom, and I watched the dynamic of this team, and they are having fun. And when he said, look, they're just a bunch of really good friends playing basketball together, I love that. And it takes a little pressure off, right? Let's go out and have some fun, play a little basketball.
Well, I think so. And you know what? The girls last weekend had an amazing run and have finished it off winning the state championship. And now the boys. We talked about this, where the boys and girls teams both having success, and you kind of feed off both crowds. They've seen what crowds are like. They're going to state for the first time since 2011 here at the Cole Center, and they have all the tools to win this. I think this is just an amazing Division II field.
Yeah, I agree. Marcus Webb is their senior leader, and he's the kid that you're going to see with his hands on the ball. And Ryan talked about pace. We want to play with a lot of pace. We play really fast. We want to wear teams down. And I had asked him about the different size court, right? It's only 5 feet longer on each side, which is a lot. I don't think people understand, and you have to shorten your rotations a little bit to get kids just a quicker blow, especially in the beginning, because their heart's pounding, TV cameras are on.
Sure.
And Ryan talked about TV timeouts. He said, look, we understand where the TV timeouts are going to be, and I don't know if we'll shorten our rotations at all, but we understand it, and we've done a lot of research on it. The other thing he talked about is if we get a lead with 5-6 minutes down the stretch, we're going to spread you out. And he said, we're going to take a little time off the clock for guys that want a shot clock. We don't have it yet. So this is the way we play. And when we get teams, when we're up with 4, 5, 6 minutes left and we spread and go 4 corner, it's really hard to stay in front of our guys. And so we get a lot of baskets off that spread offense, but we're going to spread you out. The other thing he talked about is he thinks the North Shore might be one of the best basketball conferences in the state of Wisconsin, and it's hard to disagree with him this year. When you've got Nicolay, who got beat, right? You got Homestead, who's really good. Hartford had a great year, and Slinger is up. And if Slinger wins and Whitefish Bay wins, it's a North Shore Conference state championship game.
And he mentioned Hartford. Hartford had 17 wins this year, and they didn't get out of the regional. It's such a tough one. But you got 2 teams here in the North Shore Conference. You got Slinger and Whitefish Bay finished second. The Blue Deuce finished in the second place. But interesting contrast, because we're talking about West Salem. They want to D-up a little bit more, and Whitefish Bay is spreading you out there with 6 points, 6 minutes to go, and you got a lead. Man, it's
going to be a fun one.
Yeah.
It's going to be a real fun one. And I just, when he talked about a bunch of friends playing basketball together, I saw it firsthand and really enjoyed the time I got to spend with some of those kids. We're going to get to a break, Chuck. Other side of the break, we're going to break down the Division I matchups coming up later tonight. This is the Boys Tournament Tip-Off Show presented by our friends at Current Electric, only on My 24. Welcome back to the Boys Tournament Tip-Off Show presented by Current Electric. I'm Mike McGivern alongside my co-host. He is Chuck Freimund, KFIZ Sports Director, host of Football Friday Nights on Fox Sports 920. Tip-off for the first state semifinal in Division 5 is just minutes away. Stay with us here right on My 24 for great high school boys basketball action later on this evening. The Division 1 boys get going. Semifinal, 6:30 tip-off as Wisconsin Lutheran takes on Appleton North, followed by Pere taking on Madison Memorial. Chuck, let's start with the number 1 seed. Back-to-back state champions, the Vikings from Wisconsin Lutheran. They're 28-0 overall, won the Woodland West Conference with a 14-0 record. Coached by Ryan Walls, his 18th year as the Viking head coach. And I got to be honest with you, Chuck, a lot of people are saying, look, this team is so good. I think ranked in the top 15 in the country.
You know, I've never been one of those guys who said, well, just give them the championship. Remember, they got tested last year by Oshkosh North.
They did. Yep.
So yeah, there's a reason why all 4 of these teams are at state. So I just, they're a talented team. They're a college level type team. It almost looks
size wise for sure.
Absolutely. Beating teams by an average of 30 points a game.
Right.
But yeah, Division 2, put them in Division 1. They're great they're winning in Division 1, even though they moved up. So yeah, phenomenal team. Knipples, you name it, across the board, they have just awesome talent.
Well, they play against a really good Appleton North team, but let's listen to Ryan Walls talk about this year's Wisconsin Lutheran Vikings.
We are a very long team, probably, if not the biggest, one of the biggest teams in the state of Wisconsin, with a starting lineup that's 6'10", 6'8", 6'7", 6'7". We have a great skill. And the boys are very, very good chemistry and share the ball tremendously and play great team basketball, as seen not only on offense, but how connected they are on defense. We played a great schedule this year that has prepared them for this moment, and we are excited to have another shot at winning a state championship.
You know, Chuck, I've been to some of their practices, and the amount of time that they spend on the defensive side of the ball is amazing from midseason on. And I was shocked, to be honest with you, at how hard they go as a team on the defensive end, and how Coach Walls and his staff demand perfection on the defensive end. And I don't think they get enough credit for that side of the ball.
Well, I think there's a standard that's been set there.
Yes.
And every one of these kids that have come up through the program, because of the standard that's been set for so many years in athletics at Wisconsin Lutheran. And that's not surprising. I mean, you can't just go out and think you're going to win a game by scoring. They can score 80 or 90 points, but you got to do it on the defensive end.
Yeah, you do. And people always want to talk about the Knippel brothers, and rightfully so, right? But next year, right now they have 3. Next year they'll have 4. That team right now starts with Xavier Zenz. He's a 6'7" senior, averaging 24 a game, and he's going to Northern Iowa, and he's tough. He's a very tough, physical, gritty kind of kid that can score, and I think he is the kid that you start with that team before you get to the Knippel brothers.
I think he is not. He doesn't get talked about enough. I think
I agree.
Zenz is a guy who makes things happen. As you mentioned, going to NIU, terrific kid, player and all that, but yeah, he's an athlete too.
He really is. And when you talk about the Knippel brothers, right, they're really good players. 6'10", 6'6", they can shoot the ball, they defend hard. They've got a freshman brother who doesn't get a ton of time, a little bit of time, but I can tell you that Zenz is a kid that I thought, boy, maybe he goes Wisconsin, maybe he goes to Marquette, but Northern Iowa might be a great fit for him.
Yeah, probably a place he can go on to go and maybe get on the court right away. Sometimes you go to mid-major, they say, hey, you can go to Marquette or Wisconsin. You may not get on the court to your junior or senior year, but you come to NIU, you come to us, you come to Bradley, you go wherever, mid-major, you can get on the court. Milwaukee, you come and get on the floor right away.
Right. And Northern Iowa going to the NCAA tournament, and Xavier Zenz, really good kid, but just a great basketball player. The other thing that he said in that press conference is Appleton North has caught our attention. We have noticed them a lot, and we have done a lot of work. Anytime you have 3 seniors that make first team all conference in that conference, and your best player might be the sophomore, you can't have 4 first team all, right? You just can't. But these seniors have been playing varsity since their freshman year, and I can tell you that Coach Walls thinks highly of this Appleton North team.
2 years ago, this team Appleton North started off 10-0 with playing all these underclassmen. Now, it didn't end up well for them. They didn't win a conference championship, but they beat Kaukauna, who many thought in this sectional, two teams from the FVA, Appleton North and Kaukauna, they were gonna meet at this point, but people had Kaukauna winning the sectional. Appleton North pulled it off. They have a kid named Grant Hardy who's going to go to Winona who can play.
Yeah. Boy, great year. 24-4 overall, 16-2 in their conference, tied for first in the conference. Let's listen to Chris Kelly talk a little bit about this Appleton North team.
We have a very experienced team this year. We've got 3 players that have started all 4 years, which is pretty unique in the Fox Valley Association. Will Sweeney, Grant Hardy, and Nathan Ramus have started a lot of games for us. So they're pretty poised. We also returned a fourth senior starter that started the past few years, and Ben Zablowski, 6'6", gives us a little size and muscle. And then our leading scorer is a sophomore, Matt Rosplahowski, who offensively is extremely gifted, and he has a knack for carrying us at times when we get kind of sluggish. Had a really nice season, come together, kind of a historical season for us. But we're excited for the next opportunity to play.
We asked him in that press conference about his draw, and he said, look, we're going into this. We have nothing to lose. Nobody except the people in this locker room feel like we have a chance to beat a Wisconsin Lutheran team that's ranked, like we said, in the top 15 in the country. And he said, we're going to throw the kitchen sink at them. No, we can't take bad shots, no bad turnovers, but we're going to show some things that we haven't shown all year, that we have worked on. The only way we have to stay in a game like this is we got to take care of the ball. We can't take bad shots, and we're going to just throw the kitchen sink at them. I'm so excited to watch this
Interesting.
one.
And he mentioned the kid by the name of Rosplowski, who's a sophomore. You're going to hear from this kid in the next couple of years. I think a D1 recruit, but you add him to Ramus and Hardy. And Appleton North, I'm with him. I'm with Coach Collette there. I would not count them out in anything.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, come prediction time, we'll figure out where we go with that. He doesn't seem to be afraid of the moment. He's a Neenah grad, by the way, and pretty good basketball player when he played.
Sure, went to state, beat Fond du Lac in the sectionals in 2000, but he was a good it's weird for me to see kids who I covered back in the day have gray beards these days in coaching.
Well, you don't have. You look great, by the way. That's awesome. We're going to get to a break. Other side of the break, we will break down the second Division I matchup coming up later on this evening. This is the Boys Tournament Tip-Off Show presented by Current Electric, only on My 24. Welcome back to the Boys Tournament Tip-Off Show presented by Current Electric. I am Mike McGivern alongside my co-host. He's Chuck Freimund, KFIZ Sports Director and the host of Football Friday Nights on Fox Sports 920. Later on this evening, the second Division I state semifinal gets underway as Pere takes on Madison Memorial. Chuck, let's take a look at the Redbirds from Pere. They're coached by Brian Winchester. Brian talks a little bit about this year's team.
We are, I think probably some people who might be a little bit surprised that of the results that we have had this year based on who we graduated last year. But I think we have some very good basketball players. We're led by a very good senior class. Noah Maniscalco, Jack Buchter, Isaac Herlash, and Bennett Reimer all start for us and are all very solid players. I think Noah and Jack and Isaac are potential Division III type players, so they're good basketball players. We have Will Krieger, who's Conference Player of the Year, a junior, scholarship level player at the Division II level right now. And so shouldn't be completely shocking that we've advanced based on who we have, and we just got a great group of kids, like every team that makes it to state, that get along with each other, play well together, great chemistry. And have done some pretty special things for us this year.
23-5 overall, 16-2 took first place in that conference. And I can tell you that Brian Winchester has taken that program, and I asked him in this press conference about how to build a program like the Pere has. When you talk about the best programs in the state of Wisconsin, they're in that conversation. And that doesn't just happen. And he said he really dove hard into the youth program, got good coaches, got players excited, youth players excited about the possibility of playing for this high school. And he said, look, it's really made the world of difference. We have so many kids in De Pere playing basketball.
Sure. And you got the school across the way, west of Pere,
Right.
who was not a bad program either. But I look at the Pere, and that's a team that could put up points. What they did against Brookfield East, they put up 97 points in the sectional final against them. And they've been doing it all year. Won a state championship a couple of years ago. Last year, people thought that was going to be their year. They got picked off along the way. But, man, they're back, and they're good.
What's funny is he talked about nobody has really thought this year, people thought, okay, easy pickings because of who we graduated. He said the idea of this team, the identity of this team is toughness.
Yep.
He said, and we've talked about nobody believes in us. That's hard. Look, that's coach speak. But you can get 17, 18-year-old kids to believe that.
Oh, yeah.
Even though De Pere is a team that gets here a lot and people talk about this being one of the best programs in the state. He said, we've been playing with a chip on our shoulder the entire year. And again, that's something that you can talk to your team in the locker room about.
Well, when I saw them play against Brookfield East, Mike, I saw a team that, wow, this team is fantastic. I mean, the way they run offense, so smooth. To put up nearly 100 points against a program like Brookfield East, I thought was impressive.
100%. They play against a Madison Memorial team. I'm a big fan of Steve Collins, the head basketball coach at Madison Memorial. First time they've been to state since 2017. And look, he talks in the press conference. It's been a difficult year after the death of Trayvon Harris and how this team responded to that.
I would consider them the cardiac kids. They've faced a lot of adversity, no pun intended there. Not a lot of 15 through 18-year-olds have to be in a gym and see one of their teammates die. And they've handled it with grace and raised their game. I mean, it's crazy. And we've won a couple overtime games, double overtime game. We went to 4 overtimes. One of the craziest games I've ever been a part of in 37 years, that 4 overtime game against Milwaukee Lutheran. I know you were just talking to Brian and stuff, and that triple overtime state championship game I thought was the wildest one. I think the 4 overtime one was crazier. So they just find a way, and they found a way on Saturday. When you look at the statistics from the stats teacher, I don't know if we should have won the game, but they just found a way to hit a shot, and some of my role guys really stepped up. So this group will always have a special. I've had some really good teams and some special teams. I don't know. They don't pass the eye test. They really don't. If you're picking them at the pickup game down at the park, I don't know if you're picking half my team. They're just gritty kids that want to win and are playing with some sort of mission, and it's pretty special. It's been a very special year.
Chuck, did you see the sign over his shoulder? It said, "This marriage is interrupted by the basketball season." He had a flight today to Hawaii that they had to reschedule because him and his wife were leaving to go to Hawaii. And he did not think that this team was going to get to state, and they had to reschedule their trip to Hawaii. And his wife's, but when they won the tournament, when they won the sectional finals, by the time he got home, his wife had already contacted the airlines, got the hotel, got it all taken care of. And she said, I know what's going, don't worry about it. We're going to just wait a week, and then we'll take our trip to Hawaii.
Yeah, I knew another coach a couple of weeks ago. He had a trip down to Arizona. He's going out to see Brewers spring training. And I said, well, what if you make it to the sectionals? Oh, I don't know if we're going to do it. And sure enough, he got to the sectionals, and he had to cancel his trip.
With Madison Memorial, turning point, we asked him, what was the turning point? And he said, we beat Whitefish Bay in overtime. And Whitefish Bay is as good as advertised, and they got a chance to win the Division II state championship. And he said, but that moment, we beat Whitefish Bay. Our players didn't understand what that meant. They just won another game because we told them they had to play. He said, but my staff, he said, we went, okay, we might have something here. And when he talks about us not passing the eye test. He has told me that 3 or 4 times throughout the year. He said, Mac, if you came to a practice and our guys walked in, you would be like, that's your basketball team? We got a bunch of like baseball players. They got 4 Division I baseball players that are making this team go. And he said, look, I don't understand some things that happen on this team. Guys who haven't hit threes all year are hitting threes to send us to double overtime. Guys that would take a charge since freshman year are taking charges, making great passes, finishing games, getting steals. He said, my staff and I kind of laugh in the locker or in the coach's room, like we didn't see that coming. And it keeps happening to us. And he said, look, I don't know if anybody can beat Wisconsin Lutheran, but I'd sure like a shot at him.
It was funny before the season when I was looking at this team and I kept the reading, well, this kid's going to Bradley. This kid's going on a baseball scholarship. And I was like, do they have this wrong baseball scholarship? All these kids are going on a baseball scholarship. But that Big 8 conference, I think, that's one of the few conferences in the state that never has realignment affect them. Some Prairie moved out when they split the 2 schools, but they have the Geniusvilles, the Madison schools, Verona, Middleton. It's always a tough conference every year.
It really is. And they, for Memorial to have to beat Middleton, who had just beat them a week prior, in Verona to get the section finals, going to be really, really interesting. We're going to find out who you like in that game. And in fact, we're going to ask for predictions, Division 5, Division 2, and Division 1, and we'll find out. I might go opposite, and we'll see. We'll bet lunch or something. We're going to get just a few of those predictions from my co-host. This is the Boys Tournament Tip-Off Show presented by Current Electric only on My 24. Welcome back to the Boys Tournament Tip-Off Show presented by Current Electric. I am Mike McGivern alongside my co-host. He's Chuck Freimund, KFIZ Sports Director and Football Friday Nights on Fox Sports 920 AM host. Chuck, we're just minutes away from our first Division 5 state semifinal. Stay with us all day here on My 24 for great high school basketball action. We're going to talk some predictions, Chuck. I'm going to put you on the spot. Let's start with Division 5, our first game today. Reedsville against Sheboygan Lutheran. Who do you like?
I'm going to take Reedsville in this game. I know Sheboygan Lutheran puts up a lot of points. They can put up 80 to 90 points. I think Reedsville is going to get it done with Coach Prochnow. I think they win the semifinal game.
I'm going to go with Sheboygan Lutheran.
Okay.
You know what? A lot of tradition. I think their coach there is really good, and I think they play him better at the end of the year than they did in the beginning with a couple of injuries and some changes. But I like them. I think they got a chance to win it. The other game is Prentice against Southwestern. Your thoughts on that game?
I think Prentice is going to win this game. They've been in the state since 1999. They play, I think, in a really good conference up there. I'm going to take Prentice to win this game.
Do you think the idea of not being to state in a long time, the first couple of minutes of that game, they've got to weather the storm. They've got to get the butterflies out of their system, and you think they'll be able to accomplish that?
Although I think something like this goes out the window. I mean, like when the kids step on the court, they don't say, well, God, we haven't been here since state since 1990. These kids weren't even born since then.
Right.
I just think the newness. Now, I think once you've played there the year before and come back again, that's different.
Do you know, I think in a town like Prentice, they're going to have people saying to them, hey, I played in that game years ago. And you better bring that gold ball home. I'm going to watch that game for the first 3 or 4 minutes to see if they can just kind of get their heartbeat settled down a little bit. Somebody knock down a couple of shots, somebody take a charge, get a loose ball, and then everything kind of just gets back to normal.
Beautiful country up there. They're digging out of 90 inches of snow all week up in Prentice, up by Florence and up there, but it's a beautiful area.
Yeah, it really is. Let's talk about Division 2. We got a number of teams from our area here. The first Division 2 game, Slinger will take on McFarland. I know who I'm picking in this one. I think the Owls get this one, but let's hear what you said.
I can't go against you there. Right? Slinger is champions of the North Shore Conference. They're just a good team. They got the Cohen kids. I think they're built for this time of the year, and I see them winning it. I think they're going to win this game. McFarland's going to give them a run. I see it being a close game, but I think Slinger's going to win.
You know, the way Slinger defends, and they're going to pick you up full. And I think they're going to shorten the rotations a little bit because of the pressure and the amount of energy they use on the defensive end. If McFarland can take care of the ball and can hit some shots early, I think they got a chance to stay in there. I think Slinger is going to be too much for him.
Yeah, I think Slinger is, I said you put Slinger in any division, and I think they would be his champion.
Yeah, I think they'd have a chance.
Yeah.
I do. West Salem against Whitefish Bay. Whitefish Bay is a team that I know a little bit about. I like their coaches a lot. I like some of their players. When he said, look, these are a bunch of friends just playing basketball, that said a lot to me. These guys care about each other, play for each other, and I think Whitefish Bay's got a chance to beat West Salem.
And I agree with you. Everything I've read and seen about these guys, and what I've learned from you about Whitefish Bay and those stories you told me, I think there's a lot of togetherness on that team, and I think Whitefish Bay gets it done.
How do you feel if it's Slinger and Whitefish Bay, a North Shore Conference game for a state champion? You're okay with that?
Yeah, I think
I
you
am
need
too.
the two best teams. I know there's always a feeling that, hey, you take one team from one part of the state and over another team. No, get the two best teams, right?
Man, I appreciate
Right?
that. Not everybody feels the way we do on that.
No, get the two best teams for the state championship game.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Let's get to the big boys, Chuck. Wisconsin Lutheran against Appleton North. It's going to be very hard for either of us to pick, I think, against Wisconsin Lutheran. I think Coach Walls and that staff and that team built again to win another state championship. What say you?
Well, Appleton North, if I pick against them, I cover the FVA. They're going to say, why didn't you pick? No, I got to be objective here. Now, I think Appleton North can give Wisconsin Lutheran a game, but Lutheran, the size, the history, the strength, the coaching, everything that Wisconsin Lutheran has, I think it's going to be a close game, but Wisconsin Lutheran wins.
Look, I think if Coach Kellett can get the Appleton North kids to understand, don't worry what's on the front of the jersey. Don't worry about what they've done prior to this game.
Yep.
And let's not be down 10 before we hit a shot.
Well, that's it. You're exactly
good.
right. Because some teams step on the court
They
look across and they say, oh, boy, there's Coach McGivern. Oh, there's Paul Wallersheim. We're already down with 12-0 in this game at Martin Luther.
They can't do
doing
it.
that.
They
No.
can't. Hey, the last game, Pere against Madison Memorial. I love both coaches. I really do. Got a lot of respect for both coaches. I'd be interested to see if Madison Memorial might be able to get a game. And I love when he says, "Look, we don't pass the eye test."
He won 400 games for a reason. Coach Callan not giving his team enough credit. I know they got baseball players and all that. And Pere, maybe they didn't think they were going to be at this point. To me, this is one of my favorite games of the day.
Yeah.
I think Memorial is going to win.
Wow, that would be great. It really would. Chuck, thank you so much.
Great being here.
It's been awesome having you
Thanks for
here
having me.
these 2 days. It's always good to catch up with you. Stay here on My 24, just moments away from tip-off of our first Division 5 matchup. This has been the Boys Tournament Tip-Off Show presented by Current Electric, only on My 24.